In today's show, Scoot Henderson and Deandre Ayton return to the lineup. A mini Anfernee in the third quarter, and the Blazers come up just short in Indianapolis. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. Coming at you each and every weekday, so make it a part of your daily routine. Make it your first listen. Tell your friends to do the same. It's Locked On Blazers, your team every day. In today's show, we're talking about a Blazers 121-114 loss in Indianapolis. They lose to the Pacers, finish up a road swing 1-4, and head back home for Turkey Day and a Friday meeting with the Kings before they travel halfway across the country, before they get to spend a day off with the family. They had to play a basketball game. We'll talk about that one. Scoot Henderson and Deandre Ayton return to the lineup. We'll talk about both of their re-debuts, or I guess returns, not really re-debuts. Anfernee Simons, a little mini Inferno action in the third quarter. We'll talk about that. That was, we haven't really seen that stretch from Ant yet. A heartening moment in the third quarter for Ant. And then I want to talk about crunch time and kind of... we saw the two teams do the same thing in different ways, and then talent wins. I want to talk about process and what process really means to close the show. Let's do what we do, though. First, Blazers lose 121-114. Here's your fastest recap in the West. Blazers led 31-26 after one. They played well and shot well early and got themselves a little bit of a lead, but the Pacers came back and it actually took the lead back in the second quarter, but a late Anfernee Simons three from the corner tied this game at 60, and you head into halftime with a whole bunch of points on the board for both programs. And then Anfernee Simons got hot. Come out of halftime and Ant gets hot. Scores 16 points in the third quarter. Hits 5 of 7 shots. The problem was the non-Anfernee Simons were 4 of 14 in that quarter. Anfernee Simons had made 5 buckets and had 2 assists. He scored or assisted on 7 of the 9 made field goals in the period. It was just nobody else could get going. And on the other end, the Blazers showed very little resistance against the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers scored 36 in the quarter, and Ant had 16 of the Blazers' 25. 9 points from everybody from the non-Ants in the third quarter. Ant was really good. He hit 3 threes. I thought they, Anfernee Simons probably had other, he's had other moments where he had a big fourth quarter, not that long ago. He had a stinker in Memphis, but he had a big fourth quarter over the weekend on Saturday night in Houston, and then followed that up with just an absolute dud against the Grizzlies. But I think this stretch was the most Anfernee stretch, which I say because it was like he was making tough shots, a baseline fader after 3 between the leg dribbles against Miles Turner, like a 30-some footer, 32 according to the NBA's official box score, 32-footer from the left wing. He was like, he's making threes. He's getting to his mid-range and shooting off the dribble. He is like, it was like the true, I'm on a heater, let me cook type of thing. And the Blazers kind of let him go a little bit. And certainly we're looking for him after he got hot and said, let him shoot it. In fact, I think they probably could have been a little more greedy and even hunted him a little bit more. But there is diminishing returns on saying shoot every time down the floor. Guys, not every player in the league has the juice to do that. But Ant was so good in the third quarter at Mass that the Blazers just couldn't get stops anymore. They just oh, okay, we've given up 96 points through 3 quarters, and you're down 11 heading into the fourth. You're gonna need a special. You're going to need to play pretty well to win a game on the road trailing by double digits heading into the fourth quarter. And the Blazers pretty much erased the lead against the Pacers bench over the first 5 minutes of the quarter, first 3 minutes of the quarter, and then kind of hung around. Blazers cut it to 2 on down 11, cut it to 2 on 3 separate occasions in the first 4 minutes and 20 seconds of the fourth. Like the Pacers bench could not stop them. Pacers bench used to be a strength. I feel like it's not a strength this year. I feel like they're not as good as they were in the past. In general, I watched this is the first full Pacers game I've watched this year. I've watched like the end of a bunch of their games, but I have not watched like from the first quarter on, but I've seen a lot of fourth quarters of them just because of East Coast timing and having a small child. But I was unimpressed with them. I feel like I did not come away thinking like the Pacers are better than their record. I was like, they came into this game at 8-10, and I was watching them for through the first 3 quarters. I'm like, yeah, this is an 8-10 team. In that third, though, I think their stars got going, like their best players got going. Siakam, Halliburton, and Miles Turner, and then you start the fourth quarter and their bench kind of stinks. But they maintained enough of a lead that the Blazers couldn't get all the way back. They got after Blazers cut it to 2 on 3 separate occasions. Pacers came back, put their starters back in. Mathurin was also pretty good in that third quarter, and he gets back in the game along with Halliburton, Siakam, and Turner, and they build it back up, right? It's like, oh, our good players are back on the court. They go up by 10, but the Blazers don't go away, and they cut it to 6 on 2 separate occasions in the final 65 seconds. Anfernee Simons steps to the line down 109-115. Pacers up 6 with a minute 5. He misses 2 free throws. Ugh, yuck. Blazers, get a trade buckets. Scoot Henderson back to the line, down 6 with 34 seconds left. These are 2 opportunities in the final 65 seconds to cut the lead to 4 and give yourself a chance for stop, score, have a chance. The Scoot free throws, you're still going to be in, like, even cutting it to 4 with 35 seconds left, you're still probably playing the foul game, but certainly you're putting some pressure on him. Scoot makes the first, misses the second. Denny Avdia keeps the offensive rebound alive. Toumani Camara secures the offensive rebound. They kick out. They get a 3 from Ant. This is a 3-pointer that would have, you're down. You've now cut the lead to 5. This would have made it a 2-point game, would have cut it to 2. Ant misses the 3, Pacers get it back, and that's pretty much your ball game. Pacers win 121-114. That's your fastest recap in the West. I talked a little bit about Anfernee Simons' third quarter. I'll talk a little bit more of that in the second segment. What this was important for was that Scoot Henderson returned. Deandre Ayton returned to the lineup. Deandre Ayton after missing 7 games. Scoot Henderson after missing 4, but he missed half of. He left early in the OKC game. This was Scoot Henderson, missing 3, but he had missed half of the OKC game, so 3.5. So, you get Scoot back in the lineup. I thought he played really well. You get Deandre Ayton back in the lineup. I thought Deandre Ayton showed what he does. Like it was good to see him back in the lineup, and he was effective. They probably don't stay in this game without DA's contributions. And the third quarter from Anfernee Simons was like, oh yeah, remember him type of game. I also want to talk about the fourth quarter because I think you got to the final 5 minutes and both teams kind of showed their hands. They're like, this is what we do. And I honestly think sometimes it's not always like this because sometimes it can get a little it gets a little messy. But I kind of think teams show their identity in must-score moments. Like I think crunch time is like teams are like, here's what we want to do, and they just show you. They kind of just say, here's the way we score when we need to score. They kind of give you their identity. They give away the goods to some extent. It's another way to put it is they run their best stuff. they run their best stuff, or their most what they think is their most reliable way to generate a quality look. Both teams did it differently. I'll talk about that in the third segment. I want to talk about the return of Ayton, and I think Scoot Henderson played one of the best games he's played as a pro tonight in Indianapolis. Let's talk about that. Talk a little bit more about Ants in the second segment. Join me there, won't ya? First, though, I want to tell you about Skylight Frames. Do you have a family member that maybe lives far away that you don't get to see and connect with on a daily basis? Maybe they live a drive away. Maybe they live a flight away. Maybe they're like my family. They live several flights away from me, multiple flights to get back home. Well, then possibly what you need is the Skylight Frames. It could be the perfect gift for you. It's the touchscreen digital photo frame your whole family will love. Upload thousands of photos with your phone and watch them appear in seconds. It's super easy to use. You can set it up in 60 seconds. It's got seamless sharing, so you can invite your friends, you can invite your family to easily share photos via the Skylight mobile app or via email if you've got folks in your life who are not app users. Plus, it just looks nice in your home. It's a pretty looking picture frame that'll look nice in your, like really nice in your home. And kind of why I like it is because, and you might too, is because it's better than social media. It's private, it's curated, it's for your family, your people, your loved ones. It is not something shared across what can be a dicey world of social media and the public space. And right now, as a special limited time offer for my listeners, you can get $20 off your first purchase at Skylight Frames when you go to skylightframe.com/NBA. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com/NBA, skylightframe.com/NBA. Get $20 off your purchase right now at skylightframe.com/NBA. All right. The return of Scoot Henderson and Deandre Ayton is maybe the secondary story of this game, because the story of this game is that frickin' Anfernee Simons had 30 and hit 6 threes, and in the third quarter, he carried the offense in a way that you had kind of been waiting him to do. In the fourth quarter on Saturday night, when the Blazers needed to score at crunch time, Anfernee Simons delivered. Then he had an absolute just stinker against the Grizzlies, and then he came back and bounced back. The challenge for every player is consistency. Like, if Ant did this all the time, he'd be another level of player. But the fact that he's getting back to being able to, at least in brief periods, touch this level, I think is really, really heartening. It's, like I said, there is a vocal part of the fan base that is over Anfernee Simons, and boy, do I hear from them. But whether you're rooting for him to go get a job in a new city, or whether you're rooting for him to be part of the team for the rest of time, he needs to play well in order to facilitate that. Okay, that's use that lizard brain in there. Anfernee Simons playing well is better for whatever outcome you desire. Him playing better is the path forward. And like I said, he doesn't score freaking 16 in every quarter, but he's had a couple of these moments where he's flashed these stretches, 10 straight minutes where it's like he can score, and that's Ant's skill. That's what you want to see. I'll talk a little bit more about how they did it in the third segment to close the show, but I don't want to talk about Scoot. Let me go DA first, then we'll go Scoot. I think Deandre Ayton showed exactly who he is in this game and what he brings to the table with the Blazers. First of all, he's better offensively than he's had some quiet nights offensively. He finished with 16 points, 12 boards, and he ended up blocking 3 shots. I think the block shots kind of belie a little bit of his defense, but the positive stuff first, Deandre Ayton is very clearly the Blazers' best individual offensive center. He's maybe not the best center for the offense. I think that's a different thing, and certainly if one of the guys who plays center was going to score 17 points, you would probably bank on, 16. You would probably bank on it being Deandre Ayton. He's certainly has more offensive touch than the other big options, right? That's not controversial. And I thought he played well today on the roll. Almost all of his buckets, I believe every single one of his buckets that was not an offensive rebound was assisted. He rolled, he caught the rolls, he finished, he caught lobs, he got himself into space and allowed himself to be a play finisher off of his teammates, right? Got offensive boards, 4 on the offensive glass. He's a good offensive rebounder. He is a good play finisher. He's got good touch. This was a game where you saw his offensive prowess, right? Oh yeah, okay, DA can do that. And when the other centers play, they can't do that, right? You saw what separates him, or what differentiates him is maybe the way I would like to say that. I thought his defense was a little bumpy. I don't think he played very good defense at all to begin this game. In fact, he went scoreless in the first quarter, so some of it was probably just I haven't played basketball in 8 games and a little over 2 weeks, and he just was getting himself back into the game. So I'm not reading too much into it. It's a very normal transitional period, but I don't think he played very good defense in the first half. And then the Blazers chose to go a little bit smaller at times down the stretch until the final 90 seconds. So they're maybe we should put DA in because we're not scoring right now. But like, they made some of those choices, and I think part of those choices was stylistically what they wanted to do on offense, and the other part is just like, well, he wasn't really impacting the game on defense, so what are we losing by going with the super tiny lineups? Particularly on a team that's not going to mash you on the inside. That's just like not the type of player Miles Turner is, although he's strong enough in his own right. I think DA was good. I don't think he was great. I think he was good. I think you could put him in the good column. In the same way, it's like, he has some of his shortcomings, but also some of his very obvious strengths were on display in this game. Scoot Henderson, on the other hand, was just hooping. I think this is one of Scoot Henderson's best games as a pro, period. Certainly some of this is box score stuff. 17 points, 9 boards, just 1 turnover in 35 minutes. Certainly there's some of that, right? There's some of that is just like 17 and 9. Ball go in, and ball go in for his teammates, right? Like if you pass the ball and the dudes make shots, then you get an assist. And it's like, he had 9 assists. He played well. One of his assists, he just gave it to Anfernee Simons, and Simons popped it from 32 and swished it. Not all assists are created equal, right? I do, some of it is getting caught up in the box score, but I think if you watch this game closely, the pace with Scoot, and this is the thing. When Scoot was a rookie, he had one pace, and it was super turbo. He was just using his turbo boost all the time, and he was either playing 0 or 60, right? Like he didn't have the in-betweens. I think he looks so much better figuring out when to go fast, when to go slow, and because he was controlling his pace, he was getting himself into... Scoot really likes to come off a screen, and he likes to snake back and try to put his defender on his hip, right? Like that's a classic Scoot move. And sometimes he does that so deliberately that the defender can block his shots, or he gets himself maybe off course a little bit because he's really trying to establish some contact. But I thought Scoot had a really good rhythm, even with those snake dribbles, and then he would explode off of those snake dribbles, not stay so attached and say, "This is going to work because I'm gonna put you in jail," right? But like. That the pacing off of those pick and roll reads, he likes to come around that screen and find his man who's chasing him over the top, or if he gets the chase over the top, or he likes to if you go under, he likes to kind of eat up the space when you go under, and again make some contact and get you to have to get too close, and he can make decisions in space. But he doesn't always, he sometimes does that without a plan, or without a feel, maybe is a better way to say that. I thought his feel and his pace were so excellent. I thought this was one of the best playmaking games, one of the just straight passing games of his career, and he hit 3 of 4 threes. Last year he really struggled as a catch and shoot guy. He's looking a lot more comfortable in that role this year. I think his the numbers are still maybe a little muddy because he hasn't played a bunch, but it is trending towards him being a stronger catch and shoot guy this year than an off the dribble guy. And last year was the exact reverse. Like he needed a rhythm dribble, or that 3 wasn't going in. Being able to play a little bit off the ball and make jumpers, and playing with good pace on the ball, that's the Scoot you dream of. I think this was just straight up one of his best games. I know the Blazers lost, and I know they lost because, their 2 point guards, I should say, missed free throws with, 65 seconds left that would have given them a chance. And I know that they lost because they got close against the Pacers bench, and the Pacers put their good players back in the game, and they just couldn't stop them. I know all that. I think this was a good game. I really do. I think the Blazers, first of all, it's an entertaining game to watch. And I also think the Blazers played well. Their defense couldn't slow this team down. They gave up $121, but they scored and they responded. And some of the struggles that they had are just kind of talent stuff. Speaking of struggles, I'll mention him very briefly. I watched this game and I thought to myself, without looking at the box score, I don't typically look at the box score during the game when I'm watching at home. I'll just watch it and write some notes down, and then afterwards I'll kind of go back and maybe I'll write like, oh, he missed 4 in a row, and then I'll go back and look at the full box score. So I wasn't looking as this game was going. I thought Shaedon Sharpe was bad in this game. I was like, what an awful Shaedon Sharpe night. And then he finished with 17 points, and I was like, well, how about that? He didn't shoot well, but I think like that kind of encapsulates what this was like I'm like, hey, DA played well. Anfernee Simons played well. Scoot Henderson played really well. I thought Denny had a really, really good game moving into the starting lineup with no Jeremy Grant in this game. Denny finished with 16 points, 5 boards, and 7 assists to go with 2 steals. In his 41 minutes, they were leaning on Denny. They're finally realizing how valuable he can be, and I think his comfort in how he fits in has really helped that. But it's like, even the dude who I thought, like, wrote in my notes, like, oh, that's a tough Shea game. It's like, well, he had 17. If he plays what I thought was like straight up a bad game, he's finished with 8 of 19 from the floor and 1 of 7 from 3, and importantly only took 1 free throw. And I think that's like the best Shaedon Sharpe takes free throws. And I was like, I didn't think Shaedon Sharpe played well. He finished with 17. It's like this is. I don't mean to sell you on like some Pollyanna stuff, right? Like I know this team has struggles, and I know this game ended in a way where the other team just took it from them, but like. This is what you want from a team like the Blazers. They're going to lose, but they didn't get punked. They played pretty well. They got good performances, and I think even the guys that struggled a little bit ended up like with having some pretty okay night from Shaedon Sharpe, all things considered. Although I do think he really struggled on defense. At least late in the game, I think that was a little bit of a problem for him, and they tried to get him out of the action because the Pacers were like, get 17 up here. We want 17 so bad. Let's talk about what the Pacers did late. Let's talk about what the Blazers did late. Let's talk about crunch time, because crunch time looks different for the Blazers offense than the third quarter did. And in the third quarter, Anfernee Simons went nuts. In the fourth quarter, things changed a little bit. Is the process wrong, or are we just watching what the disparity in talent looks like? Join me. Let's discuss that in the third segment on the other side. First, though, let's talk about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. You can tackle all your NFL action right now, because if you are a new customer, you can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one clean, easy-to-use place. So you open up the app, you got a hunch in the middle of the game. Well, right on the same page where you place your bets, you can check out the latest stats, you can view play-by-play, and so much more, so you can be an up-to-the-moment wagerer. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Still a pass first point guard. I am still Mike Richmond. You are still listening to Locked On Blazers, and we are talking about the fourth quarter of this game. So Anfernee Simons goes nuts in the third quarter. Goes nuts. 16 points, 5 of 7, 2 dimes, scored or assisted on 7 of the 9 made field goals. The shots he missed, he got blocked at the rim once, and he missed a runner off a great feed from from Denny Avdia. 16 points in a quarter. For those of you who like to do math at home, that would have been 64 in a game. If you keep that up, you're probably not going to score 64 in a game. You're going to come back to earth a little bit. In the fourth quarter, he came back to earth. He made 1 shot, 1 of 6. Struggled. Just look at the box score. He struggled. I do look at the box score at the end of the game, and I bring it to you here. Part of what they did at the end of the game was they went small and they matchup hunted. And I'm talking the end, like the final 5 minutes. The Pacers take their bench out. The bench gave up, basically an 11-point lead. They gave up most of the 11-point lead in about 4 minutes. Rick Carlisle's like, yo, put the good players back in. Benny Mathurin, Tyrese, Miles Turner, like go fix this mess. Pascal Siakam, we need you, dog. And Pascal Siakam, he said, you need me? I'd be happy to help. I'd be happy to help. Let me get in here and do work. Put him back in. And the final 5 minutes, both teams kind of showed their hand, right? I mentioned this early in the show, is that when you get to crunch time, when you get to like winning time, teams kind of show you what they do. And I think both teams kind of showed you how would we attack this. And I think in some ways they're very similar, but in some ways they're demonstrably different. Let's talk about what the Blazers did. So the Amp goes nuts in that third quarter, struggles in the fourth. But so much of that third quarter action, not all of it, but a majority of his made shots came when he was not the primary initiator, but either Denny Avdia or Scoot Henderson were initiating. So he's catching passes on catch and shoot looks, or he's catching on the second side, or there's an action first and then it flows to Ant and then he gets to make plays. Like one of them was he's a second side guy and then he took 39,000 dribbles and splashed a fadeaway jumper on Miles Turner. Whatever process you do before that, once you take those 39,000 dribbles, once you hit about 36,000 dribbles, like you're good, baby. You've done another thing. Like the setup to get you in that space allowed you to get to go make a play on Miles Turner. Now you're going to make a play. It doesn't really matter how you got to that point necessarily. If they don't send help and you get to cook one-on-one, you're gonna go. How you ended up cooking one-on-one with all them dribbles, I don't think the process matters too much there. I mentioned it earlier, like one of his catch and shoot shots is a 32-footer. He's deep on the left wing. They're running a high pick and roll they were spacing Ant really out high and on the wings when he was off the ball. And part of that is to pull the defense out and let guys have some space underneath, because they think like, well, his defender's going to stay at the 3-point line, right. Like it's intentional. They run a high pick and roll with Scoot, and Scoot just says like, oh, your man's too far down there, and you're on a heater. He kicks it to him on the left wing, and Anfernee Simons steps into a 32-footer splash. If he misses that shot, that's not a great shot. It's a one-pass possession. This isn't like the beauty of the 2014 Spurs ball movement. This is just like that is an assisted field goal, right? They didn't really stick with that in the fourth quarter. First of all, they went small because they wanted to spread them out. They ran a bunch of small ball lineup stuff in this with Shaedon Sharpe, Scoot Henderson, Anfernee Simons, and some of also Delano Banton, 4 guards. Mostly guards. Actually, honestly, that's a oops all guards lineup. Who am I kidding? And then late in the game, they were running with, Denny Avdia playing in the middle. They're really comfortable with that, and I think Denny's been pretty good there. But when you are running with those funky-dunky lineups, you probably can't run all of your stuff. Like, your playbook is naturally going to shrink because, like, how many plays, how many different positions does, like, say, Shaedon Sharpe know the offense from? Can you just be like, hey, you're going to be the 4 in this one? It's like, I don't know what the 4 does here. I mostly played 1 and 2 as in these lineups, and like a little bit of small forward, even though I haven't played it very much. Like, so it's like, I think naturally your playbook is shrunk by playing these funky dunky lineups, and the funky dunky lineups were working a little bit. So like, whatever. But so much of the Blazers' fourth quarter offense was matchup hunting, and what I mean by that is that Anfernee Simons comes down, he picks his dance partner, he looks out and says, okay, I want Tyrese Halliburton. So whoever Tyrese Halliburton is guarding, a lot of it was Shaedon Sharpe. You bring Shaedon Sharpe up into the screen, right? And you get the dance partner you want, and you go to work. That's all well and good. It's probably what Anfernee Simons is most comfortable with. Like, we saw it for freaking years with Damian Lillard. It helps if you're Damian Lillard, a Hall of Famer, and not Anfernee Simons, a totally okay NBA player. But clearly that's what the coach wanted, and that's what Anfernee Simons is probably most comfortable with, and you show your hands at crunch time, right? And a lot of my problem with this is one, it's just like slow process. 2, the other team knows what's coming. And the other thing is like so much of it is dictated by the bench. If you go back and watch these games, CB, your boy Chauncey Billups, is calling who he wants to set the screen. Hey, have it be Tumani. He's yelling who to come up. And so the Blazers are looking back at the bench. Okay, who do you want, coach? Who do you want? Okay. And then they're running up and setting the screen. So, like, come on. A lot of teams run this isn't like a totally unique to the Blazers thing, but it's just like you are getting yourself into late clock situations and kind of running actions that are often going to lead in either Anfernee Simons taking a shot or him making one pass and that guy taking a shot. 2 times off of that exact action, Toumani Camara stepped into 3-pointers in the fourth quarter. It worked the way they wanted it to. Another time, Anfernee Simons got a great look and missed it, right? Like, it's not like it was all bad. And even when they were running not as much matchup hunting stuff in the third quarter, still some of it is just like ball go in. And that's what I want to point out here is like so much of the difference in the way we talk about offense is ball go in. I thought the process was a little better in the third quarter and the process was a little worse in the fourth quarter. But really what we're talking about is in the third quarter, Anfernee Simons made shots. To wit, the Pacers just did the same thing every time down the court for 4 minutes. High pick and roll, Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Halliburton. Everybody else get flat along the baseline. 2 dudes in the corners. Miles Turner in either side of the dunker spot, and he kind of reads where the pick is coming from to decide if he's going to be on the right side of the paint or the left side of the paint. And that's basically it. And they're just running a two-man game, and they're getting switches they want, or they're getting the matchups they want. They were really hunting Shaedon Sharpe. And so eventually they said, okay, we're going to have Tumani and Deni Avdija guard this action. Well, freaking Pascal Siakam, they fight through and don't switch it, or they do switch it, but it's like you get Tumani on it, and he's just like all in Pascal Siakam's face, and Siakam hits like a half spinning 20-foot mid-range jump shot, cash in your face, exactly what he wants. Another one where Haliburton got, there was one with Sharpe where Sharpe like didn't switch super aggressively, kind of got caught in between switching and recovering, and Haliburton hit a deep three, and you could tell that Chauncey Billups was like, dog, what the heck? There's a great shot, one of the still photos of that I saw on the NBA's website, where Haliburton is roaring after that three, and Billups is looking like, what are we doing? And I agree, that's a player issue, not a coach issue. But the Blazers eventually, they get a matchup they want on it. Deni and Tumani, your best two defenders, guarding that action, and the Pacers still scored on it. They still went and got buckets on it. They still went and got what they wanted to. And you know what they did? They ran the same damn thing for 4 minutes, and they mostly were effective with it. Is that good process? Just running the same freaking thing and like the ball went in, so it feels better? No, right? Like, I think the difference in the Blazers matchup hunting with Anfernee Simons and the Pacers spamming two-man game, high pick and roll that started at like 38 feet with Pascal Siakam and Tyrese Haliburton is talent. It's talent. I think the Pacers process was pretty vanilla, right? Like, if you're good, I've often criticized the Blazers for being pretty vanilla. Rick Carlisle is one of the great offensive coaches of my lifetime. Offense pretty vanilla down the stretch. Let's just do what we think is best. I think both teams showed their hand. It's just one team has two dudes who are like all-star level, and the other team is running a pick and roll with Tumani Camara and Anfernee Simons. Like, it's just, some of this is talent stuff. And that's why I think this is a pretty good game from the Blazers. I think where they ended up coming up short is that they don't have a Pascal Siakam to play off of Tyrese Haliburton. And Tyrese Haliburton, for all of his warts, at least when he plays in that building, because his home road splits are pretty crazy, when he plays in that building, he's a lot better than Anfernee Simons. He's a lot better than Anfernee Simons, period. But like, he has struggled this year, as I want to be clear. I'm a process person, right? I try to, when I think about this basketball team, because I watch them so dang much, I try to think about what they're doing and whether it's the right plan. Right plan that doesn't work is okay with me. I don't really have too much problem with this plan in general, because they were going small and they had it's hard to run your playbook with going small, and because they didn't have anyone else that was like really humming on offense. I think you could nitpick and say that Scoot Henderson was playing well enough that running more stuff where he initiates and gets, drive and kick type of things can help. But even that is probably not going to, it's going to devolve into a drive kick. Anfernee Simons catches on the wing in isolation and has to make a decision. Drive kick, Deni Avdija, same type of thing. Like, I'm not absolving them of all the decision making. I do agree that maybe the variety, particularly for a team like the Blazers, could be add some value, but I don't think the process was horrid. And when I look at the other sideline, their process is pretty similar. They just had better players. That is going to do it for today's show. It's American Thanksgiving. I'm thankful for you. If you are listening to this program right now, I'm thankful for you. I really appreciate the Locked On Blazers community. I appreciate that this show has continuously grown as the team has continuously sucked. I cannot thank you enough for rocking with me. You coming back makes sure that I come back. That's why I'm here. I would not do this. I wouldn't talk to nobody. And the fact that every year I've done the show, it's gotten more popular with more listeners and subscribers and blah, 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 blah. It means so much to me that the community continues to grow. I love what we have here. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you on this Thanksgiving. Among some other things in my life. No show on Friday because it's a holiday and I'm just not going to record one. If something big happens, I'll run down here, but there's not going to be a show on Friday. I'm telling you now. We'll be back next week with 5 programs. It's what we do. I appreciate you listening. Oh, tell your friends. That's another big thing. If you do like the show, rate, review, 5-star reviews, all that stuff. If you're into it, if you're an Apple Podcast listener, which the majority of you are, according to my numbers, go leave a 5-star review for the program. I really appreciate it. And they say it helps. Do I know if it helps? I don't know, but they say it helps. So go leave a 5-star review. But really, what I'd love you to do is tell your friends about the program. Say, I think Locked On Blazers and Mike it's a fun listen, so check it out. Tell them they get it wherever they get podcasts and also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'm thankful for you. I'll talk to you soon.